Hey, finance folk! Welcome back to the EU Finance Podcast, your go-to source for conversations on the policies, people, and ideas shaping Europe's financial landscape. My name is Aidas Palubinskas, and I am your host. I'm delighted to have a distinguished guest with me today. Professor Carmine Di Noia is the Director for Financial and Enterprise Affairs at the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and a leading voice on financial markets, regulation, and education at the international level. Today, we're diving into a topic that touches every citizen, every household, and every economy: financial literacy. How do people actually understand money? And what happens when they don't? We'll be exploring competence frameworks, the real-world challenges of improving financial literacy across the EU and beyond, what the OECD has in store on this agenda, and Professor Di Noia's take on the European Commission's own financial literacy strategy. It's a rich conversation, so let's get into it. Professor Di Noia, welcome to the pod.
Thank you. Thank you for this invitation. Happy to be here to talk about a very important topic like financial literacy, which is also encompassed in the strategy of the Commission.
Great. Well, let's jump right into it then. You've been closely involved in developing the financial competence frameworks with the European Commission. And I'd love to unpack that a little bit because I think it's something a lot of people may have heard of, but don't fully grasp or fully understand what they are. What are they at their core, and why do they matter? I see that you brought me some gifts: the Financial Competence Framework for Children and Youth in the European Union, Commission and OECD, and Financial Competence Framework for Adults in the European Union. We'll put, I'm sure these are available online, so I'm gonna put those in the show notes so that our audience can take a look at them as well. But so why do these things matter?
These things matter a lot because financial literacy is a part of financial education and of education of both kids, young people, and then they will grow up, but also for adults, because this is very urgent. Now, we developed this competence framework with the EU and through also the Network of Financial Education, INFE, and what they are dealing with. They're dealing with the topics that people would know. They're dealing the way they should also learn this topic. They're available to education ministries, finance ministries, to all the financial education committees all around, not only the EU, but also obviously around the world. And they're important because people need to understand the basics to manage their personal finance. They need to understand how this can lead to a greater financial well-being, as we often say. And they need to understand the basics of taking the basic financial decisions, but also buying something online is a financial decision. You may think that this is granted. This is not at all. And that's why this is an important, material which is available, has been used and referenced, obviously many EU countries in the financial literacy strategies that many EU countries and many countries around the world are developing, in many cases through our support. So this is important because these are practical documents, high-level tools that they can be used in curricula in a school for youth and children, but also for adults. Obviously, the way you teach to kids is also different if you teach to a 6 years old and to an 18 years old. Some basic concepts like risk and reward must be also taught and understood and digested in different way. But why is important? Because even kids, they are financial actors today. We're not teaching them because they will use in the future. Now, basically, all kids, including mine, they have a credit or debit card. They go on apps and they maybe buy without even comparing prices. They may be subject to a lot of scams. They may be interested in buying crypto, maybe not understanding exactly what is that they are buying.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let me follow up on that. Are you actually seeing them translate into something real in the real world? I mean, are these frameworks implemented and working?
Little by little, countries' education systems understands the importance of financial literacy in schools, and also, in many cases, understand systems, education system, not only for school, understand why it's important for adults. Then it's true that it's difficult to find space in school curricula for these topics. But then, again, these are instruments that have been already used by many countries in order to find, maybe not necessarily replace a history, but then being used by in other topics taught. Could be math, could be education and others. Now, Aidas, I remember, and I think you were there, where we presented the competence framework for youth and children. We were also with Commissioner McGuinness, and I remember there were some kids, so I came to present, and then at a certain point, there were pre-arranged questions, and then so Commissioner asked to a boy, but so you want to do financial literacy at school? I said, no. And then moment of silence in the room. And they said, why not? I said, yeah, I can do it, but then it should replace another thing because I want to study more. Now, so it's important to make it is available and understanding that, okay, there are different ways we can start, and many countries are using these, Austria, Italy, Poland, Ireland, Spain. So they are using this framework in order then to start to do, this is a path, this is not a cost, is an investment in the future of our kids and also in the future in adults.
It sounds like it's an investment in their present as well. I mean, when you mentioned that kids, when they go online, they are financial actors, they are buying stuff, and now is the time that they need to have at least the basics of financial literacy so that they can make good decisions.
Yeah, and this is more and more true due to the impact of fintech. I mean, everyone now with a smartphone can easily buy. Also, all the development of systems, buy now, pay later. So maybe in some cases people do not really understand what they're doing, and there is a cost. Direct or indirect, there is always a cost, even on accessing apps for free because you give up information. So I think it's important to raise awareness on the issues, also on the basics, on what is why you should save. I always use the quote of Warren Buffett. People should not save what's left after spending, but they should, spend what's left after saving. So the importance of investing in the future.
Understood. One of the things that I find fascinating about your role in the OECD is that you get this genuine bird's eye view across the world, across countries, across systems. And people who listen and watch this podcast know that I'm not only a fan of the EU, I'm a fan of the world. I love international stuff. So when you look at the state of financial literacy globally, what are the challenges that really stand out?
This is interesting. Working at the OECD, again, is an international view, go obviously with many, quite all of the European Union countries, but many others in Europe, but also all over the world. And we also work on these issues because we work closely with INFE, the International Network of Financial Education. I told you 130 countries, 300 institutions, and with also FinConnect, which also put together all the institutions taking care of financial consumer protection. So we like data, we gather comparable data, and this is important because then resources available, are in every sector are scarce. So then in your country, typically is a country issue how to use them. We recently talk about challenge. We recently published our Consumer Finance Risk Monitor 26. Mm-hmm. And this is also 60 jurisdictions. And basically, the report identifies, low financial literacy, 80% of jurisdictions, financial scams and fraud, which is, 85%, but is increasing, and crypto and digital asset as the big risks. Then also we have been working on basically two important I would say database. One is the International Survey of Adult Financial Literacy. This is the last edition 23, but we will do this year results next year the new edition, and luckily nearly all also EU countries are doing, but many others. And this is also working parallel with the EU Commission, Aidas, the work on the Eurobarometer, and this again OECD INFE. And in the last edition, there were numbers that they were saying, okay, 15% is not a small number of adults are victims, 1/5, but they are 1/5 of adults are victims of effective victims of frauds and scams.
And the rate is going up. You said
the rate is going up. The rate is going up also because of this, development of technology, but also aging population. So also many victims are in the old age. 40% of adults they buy online and don't have any basic digital financial literacy score, and 55%. I mean, half of the crypto holders, they think that this is a really legal tender, that is a sort of insurance in doing that. Okay, this is so they probably don't understand exactly what they are doing. And in another important work that we do, maybe this is known, is the PISA. You may know that there is the OECD assessment on PISA, is for all students all over the world, 15 years old, on math, science, and reading. And there are some optional exercises.
Does PISA stand for something other than a really great Italian town?
No, it's the personal, assessment and student assessment. And this is one of the options, even if my dream is to present, I told my colleagues, PISA in Pisa in Italy. We got some pictures about it. No, and this is the assessment on financial literacy. We've done only 4 editions, 100,000 kids, 15 years old. The same kids that are taking the broader PISA. And now we are about to have the new edition. We really hope from 20 to go to 30, 40 countries, new also European Union countries, happy, big and small. But this is very granular. It's very thick because it's very granular. That's why it takes a couple of years to publish the analysis. Now, and this is what you were mentioning, this is a reality. Our kids are financial players. They basically, the majority of them, 2/3, they do have a bank account, or in any case, a credit or debit card, maybe virtual in their phone. Basically, they buy directly. Now, 15 years old, when I was 15 years old, I was not buying, probably my parents were doing this. Mm-hmm. Now they buy, all of them, basically, they buy online, and maybe not necessarily, again, comparing prices and things. And basically, 20%, they don't have even the basic financial literacy. So this is then the need. So we need to empower, basically financial consumers, so to provide the tools and skills to make informed financial decisions. We don't need all Nobel Prize, in finance or economics, but we need appropriate level of knowledge to understand. At the OECD, we think that it's important to develop, even capital markets, financial markets, with more and more direct and indirect participation of citizens, of taxpayers to the market. And again, this is for the future, but they need to understand at least the basics. Those that understand more, they can, with proportionality, with portfolio diversification. Also, direct investment is important, but also indirect, understanding what are the fees, what I'm doing without concentration. These are important basic skills that we have to do. It's important at the same time, I'm also biased, I was a securities supervisor. It's important also to strengthen the framework on financial consumer protection, from the basic financial services to then, capital markets and others. And to do that, you also need to enhance and to make it effective, also, supervision and enforcement. Because if you have a credible framework, then you have trust, and trust is the essence of financial market. So it's important to collect data. As I mentioned, we are now on the verge of the next exercises in 2026 of both starting both PISA and the adult survey, and we look forward also to give the data, to make it available, also obviously in collaboration with the Commission. And the EU is an important also member of the OECD, and also to all participants.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the Savings and Investment Union. Yeah. I think financial literacy and the Savings and Investment Union go hand in hand in a lot of ways. Obviously, we're not going to get deep into the Savings and Investment Union, the Capital Markets Union during this podcast, because we've done some in the past and we'll be doing more in the future on that. But I think it's a very strong point that those two things do often go together, because if we want the youth of today to start investing or to invest more in the future, they are going to need to have a deeper literacy of how finance works. Let's switch gears a little bit. You recently wrapped up Global Money Week, which is a huge worldwide campaign shining a light on financial literacy. I'm curious how that feeds into the bigger picture for the OECD. What are the priorities that you're really focused on going forward?
Financial Market Week and Global Money Week, all the initiatives that are international, that go around, are very important, because these markets and the markets of our kids, again, using their smartphone, are integrated. Now, For us, Global Money Week has been an important is an important exercise, and again, often also, and we have a lot of participation also from the EU, including also from the Commission. Here is 80 countries participating this year, and the opportunity basically to focus on empowering again young people to make sound financial decisions through knowledge, through skills, attitudes, and behaviors. This also is conducted again through the network of INFE. Now, priorities that we are doing with INFE basically going forward. First, again, evidence-based. I think data and evidence is essential to try. Okay, it's important also then to have, in the end, qualitative assessment, policy recommendation, but you need evidence and data and comparable data. That's why also international initiatives are important. Now we are preparing also the 5th round of, and again, this is going to with the Eurobarometer initiative of financial literacy conducted by the Commission. We expect in the new initiative, 50 countries now going in the international survey of adult financial literacy. And again, I hope more than 30, 40 countries in PISA. And we really hope that all EU member states participate, especially because then Savings and Investments Union is there with also the recommendation. We know that education is at country level. In many cases, is also at local and regional levels, which may make the process a bit more complicated. But we have been developing with many EU countries, and again, the Commission is working a lot on this national financial literacy, national strategy on financial literacy, trying to coordinate all the actors, because again, resources are scarce, public, private, and they should move in the same direction. Second thing, so data. Second is understanding what makes really financial education effective. So how really to do it, what works in financial education, and also how. And we have a dedicated research advisory group also supporting us on that. And again, having capacity building, so it's guidance to all the INFE members, the 130 countries, 300 members, on how to do that. A third, again, research, analysis, and policy guidance to address global challenges, because again, this is a global market. Even financial literacy is a global market. So that are there, so specific global issues in basically in financial sectors, target groups, because adult kids and different target groups, they do have different necessities, and again, we need to target specific issues. And then financial education in schools is there, and again, with PISA is 15 years old kids, but then this will lead. Many countries already passed the new regulation, laws, recommendations, advice to strengthen financial literacy there. And then artificial intelligence. Obviously, this is AI, which is, again, can be a very powerful instrument. It's not for today, financial services, financial advice, but also it's important to be aware of the opportunities, but also the risks, especially, I guess, for kids, they need to understand and to manage these very powerful and very useful instruments on one side, but also understanding the issues. And I have to say, we need also to address these with, and this is also, I think, for you, for financial authorities, to do it the right means. Because, okay, we have this nice publication, but I don't have strong hopes that it will be read by a 15-year-old guy. So you need some central banks and regulators. They opened, obviously, not only LinkedIn, which is more for professional, but even TikTok channels and others. Because we need to speak with kids with their own language in order not necessarily to convince them, but at least to be listened by them. So this is very, very important.
Understood. Professor, I know you're very busy today. What you told me before the pod of what you're doing today and who you're meeting today is just amazing that you have that sort of energy. So this is going to be my last question. Last September, the Commission adopted its financial literacy strategy for member states, which feels like a significant moment. From where you sit, which parts of the strategy do you think have real potential to move the needle, to have the biggest impact on financial literacy in the EU?
First of all, I want to really recognize the important, effort of the Commission. I've been in different capacities following this for many, many years. And every time we say this is maybe the right time to move forward, possibly without a big crisis, because this is unfortunately what happens sometimes. We have this acceleration only after that. I think this is an important issue. And again, in the framework of savings and investments union, savings is a good buy-in by the political level, and probably we need to go top-down, but also bottom-up by citizens. Savings and investments, demand and supply, they go together. And so it's important to move forward on that and to have more savings. Actually, in Europe and in the European Union, we have a lot of savings, but then we need also to move these savings to a profitable investment, profitable and appropriate investment with appropriate knowledge. Now, first of all, I think it's, I would say, three elements is the political recognition. So maybe there's also evolution from the capital markets union with the S, maybe not super in English, but I think also people misunderstood. It was not the idea of creating one single exchange, but again, more and more integration. But then savings and investments union with the 2S, it's important because it has been had the buy-in of our political leaders. And so this is essential. The second thing, it's also the focus on evaluation. Obviously, these are initiatives that are also very, we need resources, but it's also the focus that also the Commission has put on the evaluation, effectiveness, and also on the funding of this initiative, research coupled with the EU member state, because again, this is most in the remit of EU member states. So the framework can be also pushed by the Commission, but this is on them. And also giving, prominence that we need to move and to move, effectively with result. I think this is a second point that I think it's important, not always have been there. And finally is the strategies, the comprehensiveness. So this is, we'll abuse the word of holistic, but this is really a holistic, approach. The emphasis of reaching, in the plan of the Commission, reaching citizens in every, age, basically, with different targets and different age, because this is an important issue along their lifetime, starting from whenever young, but also to adults, and also to the elderly people. And all these emphasis, and this is the investment part, savings and investments, also on insurance and pension, asset-backed pension, pension funds, I think really this can deliver benefit for people, and also, for the union as such, and for, growth and creating jobs and growth. At the OECD, our motto is better policies for better lives. Well, this is a clear example of that.
Absolutely. Well, Professor Di Noia, thank you so much for joining me today. It was an interesting conversation, and I look forward to maybe we'll meet in Pisa at a conference about Pisa. That'd be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this invitation.
Okay, here's my take on this. From competence frameworks to the EU Commission's strategy on financial literacy, it's clear that getting this right isn't just a policy box to tick. It's fundamental to economic inclusion and long-term resilience across Europe and beyond. Financial literacy is an essential life skill. It is more than understanding numbers. It is about enabling all citizens to get the right knowledge and skills to make informed decisions that shape their future. It is essential for achieving financial independence, security, and well-being. That's all for today's episode. If today's discussion piqued your interest, there's more information links in the show notes. Also, do please share the episode with a colleague, friends, and family. Leave us a review, only good ones, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back soon with another conversation at the heart of EU finance. Until then, bye.